Yo, what's up? What's up, night crawlers? What's up, special beings? Let's go. Tonight we're going to cover two brand new, disturbing movies. Thanks, everyone who's been in the chat. You know how it go. Is it worth it? Yeah, it's worth it. We're strong enough. Let's turn it up a little bit. Here we go. Yeah, tonight we're covering Heretic and CUCKOO. We'll start in just a second. Here we go. We're doing some late night. Let's go. Taking us in. Not right here, way in. A little late night streaming, y'all. Let's go. Come on. Thank you, chat. Thank you, special things. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate you. Thank you, Ethan. Make sure you go to Rooks G, like and share. Make sure you like and share this stream. We're about to get started here. Talking about two new movies. Beautiful at the end there, as always. That's Rooks G right there. Yo, what's up, y'all? Sorry about that. Let's go. Let's get started. Right? Let's get started. Let's talk about two brand new movies. And of course, spooky season is way over. Of course, if you're listening to this in the future, right? What's happened to Hugh Grant? Hugh knew he was going to have a renaissance, a second era. So Hugh Grant stars in the movie Heretic, which is what I'm covering tonight. You guys might not have seen this. I mean, they're pretty new, and I guess, yeah, I saw Heretic in the cinema. CUCKOO, CUCKOO, CUCKOO. All these movies since Longlegs, like they let me in, not today. I'll come back tomorrow. Right. Remember we covered Longlegs in the VIP member stream. If you want to get a membership, you can go ahead and get one of those. Appreciate it. But we covered Longlegs, and I'm not sure it was hyped up to be the big thing, but it was, in my own mind, I certainly kind of made it that way. And we've already done a pretty deep analysis of that movie. But one thing that the reason I bring that up is because there's a new arc here with new horror. We've talked about new horror, neo horror a bunch recently, especially leading up to spooky season. And the new thing is that the overt occultism in the horror movies is really it's really coming out now. And we saw that in Longlegs. We saw sigils and glyphs and intercursal hexagrams and Crowleyanism and all this stuff. And I think that's wild because, the 80s had the horror thing and the satanic pan thing, which was, that went on. And there was a lot of overt, the resonance throughout that decade was pretty heavy. There was a lot of that. I didn't grow up, again, watching horror movies. I never watched them. I saw a few. I saw Silence of the Lambs at my buddy's house in the attic on the TV, after we got home from a night out in, 7th grade or something. And it wasn't, anything that I really wanted to watch. It just came on. And the content of that movie, really, I don't really like that sort of stuff, the cannibalism. But, of course, that's, that especially is something that keeps coming out more and more. Of course, there was that Timothée Chalamet movie that was, what was that, last year? Bones and all. You guys see that one? Yeah, that's overt. There's a bunch of these. We covered, what was it, Fresh? Is it called Fresh? Right, with the Richard Marx song. Endless Summer Nights. We covered that as part of a spooky season stream last year with Jay and Jamie. And I didn't know what to expect with Heretic. I kind of did and didn't. So you can, I think that over here we're pretty good at reading movies and, predicting plot lines pretty accurately. I think at least that's what I assume about you guys, high IQ book enjoyers. We've been through enough of these all over the place where we can sort of understand the trends right away. And when I went into both of these, of course, I said aloud, hey, fellow people in the cinema, this is either going to be Gnosticism or it's going to be the most dangerous game, right? You're dead already. Shouts out to the people over there because that's been the big event. I got my pack of. You'd have to look on the screen if you're listening to that driving down the desert highway in 2 years. Listen to this. Because all of a sudden, one of these movies has hit it big and starts some sort of new horror movement, which might happen. I mean, Hereditary and The Witch also, have some, they're kind of prerequisites for these movies. You can see their influence. But these were pretty original, I thought, and I was surprised, especially with CUCKOO. There were parts in the movie where I was doing that thing people do when they watch a horror movie, and I was like, run, now they're going to get you. I mean, it actually made me do that, and it's been a while since I've done that. And that's because, and I'm going to get to CUCKOO second, but that's because part of the movie has that thing. This is one of the things that gets me. In a movie, if someone is, especially in the dark, and they look and there's a person running straight at them, and they don't stop, that's always a thing that has really gotten to me. That's in that. Remember how there were two Exorcist like prequels that came out in 2005? One was a Paul Schrader and one was a like a Jan de Bont or something. You guys remember that? There were two, and they were almost identical, but the storylines veered off. The studios made two different Exorcist prequels that are almost the same movie. I think they made the Paul Schrader first, and then they said, no, and then they made the second one. But one of those, maybe both of them, one at least, I think it's Dominion, has a scene where, like, they go into the subterranean church that they find is, like a satanic temple or whatever, underground. And then they, like, I think somebody, like, crawls up into a corridor, and then, like, they're suddenly in the demonic world, and it becomes misty, and they look, and there's, like, a demon spirit running, like, right at them. And that like, that just always, that's one of those things. It's kind of like the image, I think, that is really potent and powerful in horror films or in anything, where you, like, open the shades and there's a person standing right there on the other side of the window, just, like, staring in, like, looking at you in the house. That always is something that's, like, very unnerving. Or, like, you open the front door, at night or whatever. You're going to go out and turn off the sprinkler or whatever. And you open the door and there's, like, somebody standing in the street, halfway in a street lamp, halfway in the dark, halfway in a street lamp. They're just staring at you. Now, I'm using that image for the book that I'm writing, if I can ever get it done and get it out there. And there are some other things in both of these that occur in my own book, which I, of course, there's provenance in art. There's the landscape of literature and film, and things are, taken from other things that people have seen, and they're put into it. And actually, that is one of the tropes, or one of the motifs, I guess, in the first movie I'm going to talk about tonight, Heretic. So this is really a play. I mean, it's really a stage play that they filmed, and I was pretty impressed with it. During the film, there were times when I was like, okay, this isn't working. Get on with it. What are you doing? It's too self-aware that it's a stage play that's on film. But then the movie kind of answered those complaints at the end, in the conclusion, which was good. I was happy to see that there's a film finally where the film itself is aware of the problems that the audience might have in terms of the storyline. And that's, that is, it seems something so simple, but it's kind of disappeared in movies. That was my complaint with that Shyamalan movie, Trap, right? That's where it went wrong, is that sort of thing. Films put too much energy into they try to have deep characterization and story with dialogue, but it often doesn't work because it's just it's superficial dialogue, and oftentimes it's just exposition. You're just telling the audience, like, oh, what happened before this, or remember when I was in the war? Okay, it's irrelevant. This movie, I think, is pretty good because the dialogue all is purposeful, and it's based. Okay, so it's about these two Mormon missionaries, these two girls. They're in their, I guess, early to mid 20s. They're pretty young. One of them is especially naive at the beginning of the film, and they mention the fact that they had lives before this moment. One of them was a cradle Mormon, I guess, and the other came from somewhere else, and she has a story that led her here. And when you first see them talking, you assume that the brunette is going to be the one that will be have more depth, or will have more of she'll be more emotional, she'll be more street smart in some sort of situation, something. And that the blonde one will get herself in trouble somehow, right? You assume that. And then you start to think, okay, are they going to flip this somehow? And that gets answered in the film. But it was good. It was good. They were characters with depth. We care about them sort of almost right away. The film starts with them on, like, a bus. They're on, like, a bench, and they are dressed like, they're in is Mormon the Church of Latter-day Saints? I'm asking that genuinely. That is that, right? That's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That's Mormon. I've never met a Mormon, ever. Never. The only time I've ever been around an actual Mormon was when I was doing that stream and the doorbell rang, and it was three, like, women. Three, not two. So in the movie, they make a point of, there are two of them in their whatever, their version of a cellular structure. Their cadre, their hit team trying to get members, right? Subscriber. What are they getting? Congregants. I don't know I forget what the terminology is, but they're trying to get people to sign up and become Mormons. That's what they're doing, right? And so it was those three women, and they were like, "Have you heard of it?" And I was like, "Thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, have a nice day." And they were like, "But have you heard?" And I was like, "Yes. Thank you. Good day to you, madams or misses. Good day to you, citizens." That's what I said. Got to be polite and kind to people, gracious. They did take the time to knock on my door and say hello, even though I yelled out, "I'm busy, meatloaf, meatloaf." That's a bad reference. You know what reference that is? What movie is that? Anybody in chat? The geriatric millennials like me will get that reference right away. Speaking of which, I think that's funny. That's a funny part in that movie. I almost numchucked you. I think that's funny, but I've particularly recently been really annoyed with that particular dude, that actor. I think that's shared amongst a lot of people. DPH mentioned that one time that he rewatched another movie that guy made, a sort of classic comedy from 24 whatever years ago. And he was like, "It's dated. It's not funny anymore." And I thought the exact same thing when I rewatched it. How can a film that was so beloved and funny and quotable become so just nothing? I guess because, well, for whatever reason, we all know. We don't have to mention it here. Marinka parties and all that. I don't know, something weird, right? It's hard to make a good comedy, and these movies are not comedies. They are horror thrillers. They're thinking thriller horrors. They really were. They had depth to them. And in a different sense than The Witch or Hereditary, which are sort of my metric or whatever for these, I think Heretic was the A24. That was an A24 movie. There you go. It had a lot of the A24 tropes in it, but I sort of forgot that as I was watching it. But what'd you say, Robert? Claims to be 99. A 99th degree Mason, levitation on the planet Nibiru. Remember Charlie was a theta clear because he achieved levitation? Yeah, you remember that? My mother's Eisenhower and my father's an icebox. Gleep, glop, glibble. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to try to not get too off track here. So Heretic involves these two missionary girls, and it starts on a bench, and they are discussing sexual matters, sort of. And the blonde is talking about prophylactics, as George Costanza's dad says. And they're talking, they're having an honest conversation, two friends or women talking about it. And finally, the brunette says, "Do you often watch Prawn?" And she says, no, I just, and it's a lighthearted moment. The movie starts off kind of uncomfortable because you're like, where is this going? Is this going to be some sort of obvious, satire or take on the Mormons, which would have, if they had done that, then I would have been disappointed because that seems like low hanging fruit. So they're talking about stuff, and then they get on their bikes and they're riding around town. I think they're in Boulder. They're in Boulder. Well, they're in the mountains, and they're walking through this town, and everyone that they pass, they say, "Have you heard of?" And they try to do their speech, which they're not helping themselves in their approach right there. But I guess they're new to the thing. And finally, they see a group of college girls coming out of a bar. They're taking selfies, and they say, "Can we take a selfie with you?" They get a selfie. Something bad's going to happen. And one of them sort of pantses one of the girls. and says something about like magic underwear. And you know, it's it is what it is. It was, you know, they were trying to pull a little prank there, but it wasn't, you know, it was, you feel bad for the girl. But also, like, are you gonna deal with this in a normal way and get over it? Well, she does, and they say, you know, that's what's gonna happen. They get on their bikes and they there's a scene where they're like going up these stairs way up this hill, a million stairs, and watching that scene, the shot, you're thinking, okay, this is obvious. Is this like a form of Jacob's ladder here? Is it the stairway to heaven? Are they going to come back down? Is this their inner journey? What is this? They go all the way up, and then they ride around. They're trying to find people that I guess other missionaries or somebody had found, and they'd given their name and address. So they're going to return to them at their home and try to continue their Mormon missionary work. They end up going back down the hill, so they've got a, you know, a peaks and valleys, a rise and fall sort of narrative at the start. We're going on the narrative arc here. We're starting to get to the rising action, and then we fall, which is interesting. We know that's somehow going to foreshadow something that happens later in the film. I didn't really know much about this at all, other than that it had Hugh Grant in it. So eventually they find this last house that they're going to get to. They've got this one dude left. There's a storm breaking behind them. They're in the mountains. They chain their bikes up to the fence. He's got a wrought iron fence, but there's like no walkway in the yard. It's just grass. They go up to the door. They ring the doorbell, knock on the doorbell. They're trying to rehearse what they're going to say, their lines. Hello, have you heard of the Mormon church? Whatever they're supposed to say. And it takes a long ass time for him to open the door, dude. So immediately it's, you know, oh boy, this guy's going to be a serial killer. You just know it. You just know he's going to be, because first of all, the poster, he's got the Dahmer glasses on. And second of all, it's Hugh Grant in an A24 movie. So they're going to give him a new type of character role here. You just know that. And taking that long to answer the door in a house that looks like that, the guy's going to be, he's going to be some sort of Gacy or something. Right. And, it's just like, it reminded me of Silence of the Lambs, because again, when Dr. Lecter, did you see me in that movie, Heretic, or The Exorcist 2, the Heretic? Did you see me in that, Dr. Lecter? When she goes to the door and Bill answers the door, oh, is that a great big frat person? You know he's the guy. Any regular person would go, okay, that's obviously the guy. It's just so wild that he says that to someone knocking on his door. That's obviously the guy, right? So when Hugh Grant opens the door, and he's so nice, a lot of this movie is about being nice. That's kind of one of the major themes in this. Not trusting your gut, believing everything people tell you and just going along with it. Manners versus your instincts. And that's brought up many times. That's part of the whole reason for what happens. He answers the door. He's very nice. He's smiling. He's English. And hello. He said, there's a storm. Okay. There's a storm. Right. Well, you're standing. You know, and he does that Hugh Grant thing where he kind of, there's a bumbling words. He does less of that now in films, by the way, which is great. I like this. I like that the actor Hugh Grant is doing completely different things than the Hugh Grant roles. I like that. Like Hugh Grant made a whole career on being this soft. No, I say I might love you in Notting Hill and Twickenham. You know, that whole thing, which I guess was charming for a long time to people. Remember that news thing about him in the 90s? Was he married to Elizabeth Hurley? He's like married to Elizabeth Hurley, who is still like amazing. But she was like the most beautiful bird in the whole world. And he gets, what was he, TMZ'd on like Skid Row with, I don't know what he was doing. He was doing some kind of nasty thing or something. Which now looking back is like, oh, he got caught doing with a night lady. Is that what it was? Did he get caught with a night lady like on Skid Row in his car? Looking back, that's like, you know, with Hollywood, it's like, who cares about that in comparison to, you know, And they're literally doing like Eyes Wide Shut on TV at the Olympics. I mean, no, but you know, especially we in America with celebrity culture, you know, what Oscar Wilde said, every saint was a sinner and every sinner a saint. You know, we love, now I'm doing the Hugh Grant thing, building people up and then tearing them down, and then we love like a redemption arc. We love that here with celebrities for some reason, not us, but people with their worship of celebrity culture, bigger than life on the silver screen, obviously. And that was, you know, he took a hit there. Still, you know, continued making movies, but in recent years, he's done a few really good roles. Like he was in, was he in The Gentleman? He was in The Gentleman. He had cool, like, sunglasses in that movie. He was in, what was he in? The other guy, he's in Guy Ritchie movies. I think that was a good guy to get into movies with, you know, an English actor doing some different roles, gangster-like roles, playing some villain characters. I mean, that's great. That's like, again, that's like what Leo should do, but with comedy. He should just start doing comedies of some sort. Comedy it's difficult to make a comedy. First of all, a good comedy. Second of all, one that like lasts. It's so difficult. They rarely make them, and they rarely date well. I rewatched Happy Gilmore yesterday. Good. I mean, solid movie, right? It manages to be extreme, and like there's like a kind of cartoon violence in it, but it's like also very wholesome. It's a solid movie. Yo, shouts out to Port there who drops what's that? 32 Oz bucks. It was what do you say? It was I can't read this. Hold on. It was so it was a cuckoo night lady. Ah, okay. Oh yeah, I remember the second part. I didn't know if I was in my head confusing Hugh Grant with who else did that? Didn't Eddie Murphy also, same thing happened to him? Dude, these guys, like who are they're going to wherever they're going. It seems that like there's a guy waiting for them just to TMZ them right when they got there. Which is crazy. Or maybe that was some sort of op, right? Maybe they were doing that for research for a film. Maybe someone told them to do that. Maybe they just did that. Maybe I was asking for directions. I didn't know my way to Skid Row. I was looking for just Fent, and then I found this friend, right? And then they got snapped doing that, and they're lucky that the second part didn't come out, I guess. Or whatever. I mean, it's Holly weird, ain't it? I don't know why they needed to do that instead of just get, you know, who would provide that for them? Steve Coogan or someone? Remember the story about Steve Coogan? His other occupation, allegedly, which is funny because I like Steve Coogan, especially in the Party People movie and his TV show, and in The Trip. Michael Caine talks like this. He's much. I didn't mean to blow the bloody doors off. That's a good movie. That's a good comedy, right? Documentary about like nothing, two actors just doing impressions. That's my type of movie. Then they made like a million sequels. If you've seen that, The Trip, that's kind of it's kind of like actors humor or something. I don't know if you got nothing else to watch. Back to this movie Heretic. So Hugh Grant opens the door. He says, "Yes, I've got the literature right here. I remember. Yes, I'm interested in what you have to tell me. Come on into the house." He welcomes them in. Now, I like that the two girls say, "Look, our protocol is that we need another woman present." And he says, "Well, my wife's inside." And they say, "Okay, wonderful." So they go inside. Now, there's their little thing, right? They are willing to trust him right there because he doesn't hesitate when he says that his wife is inside. She's baking a pie or whatever. She's a little shy. She don't want to come out. They might have caught him, you know, she just got out of the bath or whatever. She doesn't need to, you know, come out. But then there comes a point where they ask again, and it's clearly a fib when he says it again that she's in the kitchen, because they walk into the house and the front room is it's not like psychotic. It does look like there could be a woman's touch in the house. There's like paintings. There's, I don't know. It's just, it could be, but it's clear that they're not sure about what this is. But he engages them so politely in conversation, and he's like genuinely interested in what they have to say. So they all sit down in the den. He goes and brings a tray with 2 Cokes, and I guess I forget what he made, coffee or something. But this was great. They don't even take a sip of the drinks that he gives them, right? Because, look, man, come on. You're walking into, I don't know, Bundy, the Cos Bundy's house, and he brings 2 like flat-looking Cokes. It reminded me of, remember the movie Prisoners? When we find out, spoiler, at the end of Prisoners, that the awful satanic woman has been dosing the like Cokes with the sleepy time acid cocktail or whatever. That is a terrifying movie. So they don't drink it, and their reason is, and he brings this up because part of their religious culture is to abstain from caffeine, alcohol and all that. And that seems true. I mean, I've never met a Mormon. I knew a dude named Mormon, but he wasn't a Mormon. He was a lacrosse player. That's not an attempt at a joke. That's true. But I know from reading about Howard Hughes, this giant Howard Hughes book that I read like 20 years ago, that Howard Hughes he came to a point where he basically only employed Mormons. And I think this started with his Las Vegas residency, when he made it to Vegas, and then he just decided to stay and buy up all the real estate and get into the casino market. And that led to like more CIA nuclear stuff. That's when he could feel his bed shaking in the penthouse of the hotel he was staying in for 10 years. And it was the nuclear test. So he called, I think it was Nixon. He called Nixon and told him to knock it off because it was disturbing his peace. And Nixon said, I'm not going to do that. And Hughes said, if you don't, then I will have the supply of something cut off. It was like when Aristotle Onassis had the salt. I think it was salt. He stopped all the salt from being imported into America on his ships because they pissed him off in some type of way. These big, titans of industry and eccentric behavior, these huge billionaire guys. So he employed only Mormons because, kind of like the mob, they had like a form of omerta built into their culture. They weren't likely to talk to people outside. They were good at keeping secrets. They could be relied upon. They didn't drink. They didn't smoke. Which was a good counter to like the feds that Howard Hughes was dealing with all the time, until he employed that guy. I can never remember that dude's name. Was it Dietrich? I think was it Noah Dietrich? Hughes' right-hand man, the CIA mob affiliate, the FBI guy. He had connections everywhere. He was his wet works, dirty work guy. His Norm Macdonald. So the 2 girls don't drink the drink, which is good. The brunette seems to be, you can tell looking at her that her wheels are turning and that she's aware that not only shouldn't they drink the drink, but like something is not right. And Hugh Grant engages them like almost immediately in conversation, which turns into a kind of debate on the merits of not only the Mormon church, but also religion in general, and his own, like what he says is his religious search, his quest. And the first thing he brings up, he's like, I want to ask you a question, and please don't be offended. I hope this isn't crass, but the first point I want to bring up is polygamy, right? The Mormon thing with polygamy. What's up with that? Which is, it's unnerving that he brings that up because he's a dude. He's like this, he's an old dude in a chunky sweater with his Dahmer glasses on, and they're in his house. And, also, the lights cut off at some point, and he says, don't worry, things happen like that in this house all the time. That doesn't happen, but the lights are on a timer. He's like, and it's on a timer. Oh, when he invites them in, he says to them when they're coming in, are you all right with the house having metal in the walls and ceiling? He says that to them. Yes, my house it's made with metal in the walls and ceiling. Is that okay with you? And it's like, what the fuck? What question is that? Thank you. Thank you, Mixie, right there, Tech Noir Graphics. Thank you for confirming that. Noah Dietrich. Howard Hughes, when he would receive memos from his Mormon assistants, in this book, it claims that he demanded that they walk with Kleenex boxes on their feet and that every piece of paper they handed him had like layers of Kleenex paper and then more layers of Kleenex. They had to hand it to him like this. The room was totally white, sanitized, special filters in the AC, because they make a big deal of his OCD, I think a lot of that, by the way, with Howard Hughes was that, and he did have that very bad, the way of the future, 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 was that when he died, in the x-ray of his body, his body had shrunk. He had all these broken off needles all over his body because when he was trying to set that record with his plane, right? No rivets. And the plane crashed and he was in that, it burned. His body was burned so bad that, the pain was so bad that that's one reason why he was recluse for all that time, because he didn't want to be seen and he was bedridden. And the pain got him addicted to morphine and all this stuff. And so I guess the sanitized room was his obsession with health with that. But that sort of gives a different angle on him not going out. I think all the stuff about like the 10-inch like fingernails and, the hair down to his feet and all that stuff that people claim, like, no one, that was just people making stuff up. There was a story that he went out one night and was hitchhiking in the desert in Vegas and that somebody picked him up, which might be true. Who would be able to recognize him? Richest man in the world. Fascinating character, Howard Hughes. We'll do that a different time. But I bring that up because, again, he was out west in the desert, and the two girls are they both from, one is from Utah, and one is, I don't remember where they're from, whatever. But they come to the Mormon church for different reasons, and Hugh Grant begins to question them and challenge them about their beliefs. And it's interesting because this is a dangerous thing in films. If you do this in a movie and it comes off as disingenuous, it's like a total waste of time, and it doesn't do anybody any favors, and the audience gets bored, and anybody who's like genuinely interested in religion in general or talk of it will immediately dismiss it. And there are times in the film where that starts to happen. He asked them about polygamy. He asked them, he doesn't dismiss it. He says that he's been on an honest search. He has a copy of the Mormon, is it just the Book of Mormon. He talks about the tablets. He talks about Joseph Smith. He does say to them that he thinks that the polygamy thing was because Joe Smith wanted to legitimize his own pervert behavior, to which they counter that no, the polygamy thing was because they wanted to start a new thing and their numbers were low and they had to do what was necessary at the time. He challenges them back and says, they make honest, genuine points in terms of like an argumentation in the film, and it was interesting to watch because it sort of echoed many streams that we see all the time, right? With religious debates. Now it's a film and they're not, they're at like level one, and that's sort of a part of the point that the two girls start to get a little flustered, and the blonde girl says, I take your points, and I'm not equipped to answer them. I'll need to go back to the church and ask the people about it, and then I can answer them later with a little bit more knowledge and depth. Which that itself, to say that is, I mean, that was admirable that she said that. I thought, and I liked their character in this, that they didn't get flustered. They were very sure of their mission and themselves. I mean, you got to give that to them. But then they question, like, where is the wife again? And when he gets up and goes to the back room, which is very creaky, wooden and creaky, very silent, they notice that, one, there's a picture on a table, and it's a picture of him young, which is weird in a house like with a wife. It's just him in the picture in the front room. And two, that the candle, they turn the candle, and the label says blueberry pie, which is what he said was baking in the back room. So brunette girl knows that there's something wrong here. They get up, they say, let's just leave, and they're about to walk out the front door. It's locked. They can't get out. Not good. This is real Bundy territory, right? With Debbie Harry being picked up. Remember, Debbie Harry was picked. She hitchhiked and got a ride with it turned out to be Bundy. She felt something was wrong, tried to jump out of the car. There was no door handles on the inside. And then he like threw her out on a turn and drove off away fast. Thank goodness. Thank goodness she got away. Didn't know who it was until all those years later, I guess. That's crazy. That's a crazy encounter. Also, I know a lady that happened to her, and she did the same thing. Jumped out on the highway going 75. They caught the dude. I've said that before. That's the lesson. If that ever happens to anybody, I pray it doesn't. If it ever happens to you, right, they make you go from your place, they take you to a different place, don't go to the other place. Everybody knows that here. Don't go to the other place. Don't let them move you, right? You got to throw some hands and make a good case for yourself. Sir, I politely disagree. I'm going to exit now into the rest of the grocery store parking lot, which is where that was. And these two, like, they're trying to be polite. They're not sure. They don't want to offend the guy. And this is the problem all the time. They know deep down so much that something it's not right. They're in this guy's home. They go to the front door. They try to get out. They can't. It's locked. There's no key. That's not normal. Right. They need to get their coats, because their coats, first of all, there's a snowstorm outside. Their coats have their bike lock keys. The town is 2 miles away, and they sit there and like kind of, talk about like, we got to get away. How can we can't run. We're going to have to ride our bikes. No, just whatever, man. Just jump out the window and get out at that point. He comes back out. Then they bring it up, and then he says, come to the back. The front door is on a timing lock. What? Okay. So he's either a level 1776 prepper, or he's is that a great big fat person? Whatever it is, it's not good, and it's not good because he's smiling so much. Right? We can go through the back. Just the back door is open. You saw my house from the outside. He's so polite and smiling, right? So, and he's, by the way, he is believable. It's not like a psychotic thing where you think that, he's lying. Like that something else is going on, but you can't really predict what'll happen next. So he takes them through the house, and they go through this lot, his study, and his study has pews and an altar with candles on it. So at that point, watching the movie, you go, oh, this guy's a Satanist. It's obvious, right? Because right before that, he says something about, I found the true religion. He talks about how he looked through all of the religions. He explored them all, and they all had all these faults and things that he says were all common to them. That all they're archetypes. They're not unique, and they all just came from something else. And he brings up this cringe. He's like Horus and Mithras and all these things. They all share the same archetypes and the December birthday and the death and resurrection. Which, by the way, I mean, you hear these. He's echoing the common arguments of people that we've seen appear all the time. But the problem is that a lot of them are inaccurate and sort of hearsay. And he's got pictures of like Horus on the wall and everything, but like the brunette points out later, there's nothing in common with him and Christ. This guy's got a bird head on. His head is a bird head, right? And I think that did she bring that up in the movie, that the story about the resurrection of Horus, I think, that didn't appear till the 2nd century AD or so. I don't know. You guys can figure that one out. That one's too much for me. All I know is that it's the same common arguments, right? It's kind of like when people say, yeah, but Christmas and Saturnalia, that's what it really is, man. And, okay. I've never heard that, but it's pretty interesting. Why don't you tell me? I'll listen. It's the same. It's the same thing. And the dude is doing that. And so we realize about his character that it's not that he's a searcher. He may be a searcher, but that he is a negator. He's an accuser. He's a black pillar in person. But what is the religion that he says he found that is the true one? So you're thinking, is this like the religion of the serpent in the garden? Is that what he's going to say, right? Because he is there, and he's got these kind of sort of two Eves in the house. He's trying to tempt somehow. We don't know how yet. He offered them, food and drink. They haven't bitten anything yet. They haven't bitten his arguments. But then he takes them into the study, and it's clearly like a ritual room. And he's got varied religious iconography all over the house. He's got an icon. I think he's got an icon of Mary up near the altar. So what is this room? And what is the purpose of them being in this room? So then we see two doors behind them, and he says, that's the way out. That's the back door. Choose which one. And he makes a dialectical argument and says, there's belief and disbelief. Take which one. Now, the blonde girl chooses the door on the right, which is disbelief, because she says, look, let's not offend this guy. Fine, we'll just agree with whatever you think we should do, and we'll see you later. And so at this point, now you're buying into the moral arguments that are occurring, and you're saying, first of all, I don't want to take the left-hand path, but is this stage left? And don't take the disbelief path if that's what he's put your choices to, because now you're going to sell out everything that you're there for just to get out of the house. So how true is your belief? And that's sort of the point of what he's putting to them. The brunette wants to go through the belief door, which sort of subverts or inverts what you may have thought about the two characters, the two missionary girls at the beginning of the film. But again, I kind of thought, okay, it's going to be too easy if they portray the emo-looking brunette girl as the one who's going to not truly believe. Maybe she will be the one to truly believe in her work. But the blonde girl, though, I mean, she again, like, has a good point. You kind of also believe that it's not that she doesn't believe, it's that she's not even aware that this is a choice that she should be making, which is conveying her religious convictions. It's just that she's a kind of innocent, lost person who just wants to be sweet and get out. And not face what is clearly some sort of, test of the soul here. So Hugh is Hugh Grant in the film. Is he like an avatar of Lucifer? Is he some sort of priest of Set? Is he is this a pagan of some kind? What is this guy? What is this thing that he's doing? Are other people going to show up? Are they going to go in through the door and they're going to end up in the labyrinth? Well, they go through the belief door, and he shuts the door. This was weird because it didn't really work in terms of the staging. They let him shut the door. They go down their steps into walking into the abyss, and it's truly like they walk into a dungeon. And when they're in the dungeon, there's no way out. They're looking for a way out. There's a window way up. They're hearing noises. They're trying to figure out, is there something we're not seeing? And then all of a sudden a door like appears, and this what's that movie called where the girl comes out of the television? What's that movie? Remember the girl with the hair? And she like crawls out of the, what is that movie called? The ring, is it Ring? Ringu. So Ringu appears with something in her hands, all nasty like, and she's going, "Rrr." And she sits down at this table. There's a table and a chair. She sits down. We see it's like a blueberry pie, and she starts shoveling it into her face under her hair and going, "Rrr." And she looks like an ancient hag witch. So what's happening? So then he starts talking to them through the like a old timey intercom system he set up and playing music. And one of the things he brought up in the study also was that he's testing them because he wants to find out, do they believe in what they say they believe because they believe it, or is it because it's a copy of something someone told them and they haven't considered their choices? Is this free will or not? Right. Ringu. What's Ring sound like? Did y'all like that movie? I've like totally forgot about all those movies. I thought those ones were stupid. I like the scary movie version of that better, where she gets punched. Put on some shampoo, bitch. What was I saying? So he takes out a record, by the way. Of course, he's got like a bunch of old records. You know, he's hip, right? So he takes out his records and he puts one on, and it's the Hollies, and it's playing, and it sounds good. You know, warm vinyl. They always play vinyl in movies now, right? Bateman was the exception. Do you like Huey Lewis in the News? Do you like Whitney Houston? This is Susudio, a personal favorite. So he puts on the record, and you know there's going to be a long-ass point here. He's meandering through his conversations. And at that point in the film, I was sitting there saying, dude, hurry up, man. Get to it. What are you going to do? What's the end game here? And what are the girls going to do? And are they thinking about, are they looking around the room at what they can grab to defend themselves? And why don't they just do it now? Because they know that the dude this is a room with an altar in it, and it's dark, and it looks like a old timey Jeepers Creepers version of the Eyes Wide Shut ritual or something. What's going to happen here? Is this where the hereditary naked people meet? Remember when they're all standing in the circle naked, and then like you see them in the house, like in the corners in the shadows. Ugh. And then switches night to day. Yucky. Get out! Get out! I banish thee! Shut up! Somebody drives by and throws a bottle of Faygo at her. Horrid woman. Right? Hereditary, that woman. There's another example. You know that woman is up to no good. The way she confronts her in the parking lot. I also lost someone dear to me. Yeah, but this is a Walmart parking lot. What are you doing? Are you here? Or is everyone I know gang stalking me and my whole family? Like the history teacher at school. Everyone that they meet in the movie is part of this. Now, Hereditary also plays a kind of prerequisite to this, because this movie, Heretic, also has the scaled model. So we see Hugh Grant when they're in the dungeon. He's back in his study, and he is painting the little figurines of the two missionary girls. Now they are set pieces, dolls. They are chess pieces in his labyrinthine game. And we see his house from a kind of God's eye view, and it is a form of labyrinth. There are weird twists and turns and false doors, and it doesn't seem to make sense logically how like big or small it is. The doors kind of don't seem to lead to where you would think they would go in terms of the model, and it's built with this huge dungeon underneath. And are there show me the tunnels, man? Are there tunnels? What's happening? Well, interesting that question came up, because the show me the tunnels thing does, spoiler, does have that is it's a valid thought to have at this point in the film, which is one of the shocking things in the movie when something later happens, which I'll get to. I have to spoil it because I can't do an analysis without telling you what happens and how it all makes sense. So I've watched it for you if you don't want to see it. And if you do want to see it, you can pause me right here and go watch the movie, then come back. Come back later. Give me a review. That's good. A review. So he's got his little model set. So we see symbol and simulacra. We see microcosm and macrocosm, and that they are little dolls in his hands, right? We are but playthings to the gods. They kill us for their sport, says King Lear. So he hasn't said yet what the true religion he says that he found is. But we start to think that it has obvious, satanic themes overriding it. But is this about him manipulating people into thinking that they have free will and arguing with them about how they do or don't have it? And how do they determine that? So the layers start to develop, the layer cake with Daniel Craig. And one of my friends is in that movie, small role. The layer cake starts to come together here. The blueberry pie does not, because the Ringu witch woman down in the dungeon eats the blueberry pie and collapses on the table. What is going on? Yes, Melly. Voodoo dolls like witchcraft, or poppets, as they say in the Crucible. Do you have a poppet? Where did you get this poppet has a pin in it. Who put the pin in the poppet? Guilty. The annoying servant girl leaves the damn poppet in the house to plant evidence. So annoying. But as it turns out with that play, the trial, they were kind of right for their reasons to have the trial in the first place, because the play shows at the beginning that they were doing the thing that they're accused of, right, with the ritual. Tituba worried to go on and get the puppet. Tituba do nothing in Barbados. Well, she showed them how to do the ritual, which they're doing. Give me the chicken. The Crucible, the play, Arthur Miller, and the film with Daniel Day-Lewis, which was that directed by, what's her name? Arthur Miller. Was it Arthur Miller's? Daniel Day-Lewis is married to Arthur Miller's daughter, I think. Anyway, my name, because it is my name, I have no other. He's really acting in that one. He's good, too. I drink your milkshake. I drink it up. What do you guys think of Daniel Day-Lewis? Little tangent here. I obviously love Daniel Day-Lewis because he was trained in my drama school. I've mentioned so many times. And I love his roles. And I like how he takes, he picks his roles really well. I've talked about him and how they say he's a method actor. I've already gone into that before. He's not. Did you know that Daniel Day-Lewis's father, Cecil Day-Lewis, was the poet laureate prior to Ted Hughes? Did you know that? Did you know that I missed meeting Daniel Day-Lewis by like 5 minutes because he stopped at school on his motorcycle? Celebs often ride around the country, whatever country, on motorcycles because the helmet allows them anonymity. Did you know that? As if anyone cares now. Look, it's David Beckham in Alabama. It's like, okay, well, I gotta go. I gotta go to the factory. I got an afternoon shift. Great. I'm sure David Beckham is probably a pretty normal guy. Actually, he seems that way. Who is half that? Daniel Day-Lewis? I get. Well, that wouldn't. I guess his kids are right. Was Arthur Miller? I mean, it seems obvious Arthur Miller. Is it Rebecca? Now I can't remember her name because I'm confusing her with Rebecca Hall, who's the daughter of Peter Hall, that avant-garde director, guy who did a bunch of Shakespeare plays in the West End in London. Daniel Day-Lewis also, they told us this story at school that when he was playing Hamlet, the ghost of his father appeared to him on the stage. At least that's what he claimed, maybe not literally, but figuratively or in his mind. And he gave a stunning performance, but I don't think he gave another performance, or something happened during. That's not a very good story, but they said some people truly are the melancholy Dane. The best Hamlet I've ever seen is Robert Downey Jr. doing a Hamlet soliloquy in the movie Two Girls and a Guy, the movie he made when he was on release, when he was a Hollywood bad boy in the 90s. Right? Ecstasy. My pulse as yours doth temperately keep time and makes us healthful music. It is not madness that I have uttered. I'll do the whole thing. Bring me to the test, and I the matter will reword that which madness would gamble from. Mother, for love of grace, lay not that flattering unction to your soul that not your trespass but my madness speaks. It will but skin and film the ulcerous place whilst rank corruption mining all within infects unseen. Confess yourself to heaven, repent what's past, avoid what is to come, and do not spread the compost on the weeds to make them ranker. Forgive me this my virtue, for in the fatness of these pursy times, virtue itself of vice must pardon beg, yea, curb and woo for leave to do him good. Oh, Hamlet, thou hast cleft my heart in twain. He does that, and he says, I am the melancholy Dane. And when he did that monologue in the film, it's very, very good. Ethan Hawke was not a great Hamlet. Based Mel is a good Hamlet. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a good Hamlet, remember? There's something rotten in the state of Denmark, and Hamlet's taking out the trash. To be or not to be? Not to be. He's good. All right, moving on. If you want to see more about Hamlet, you can look at my Hamlet analysis that I did about a year and a half ago, two years ago. Or read Harold Bloom's book, Hamlet, Poem Unlimited. He says that Hamlet is the unlimited poet. He's the great poet of all the Shakespearean characters. So the guy's making the dolls, and they're arguing about free will. And then when they're down in the dungeon, he's speaking through the intercom, and he says, do you like Radiohead or something? And they're like, what? We don't know who that is, because they're Zoomers. We don't know who that is. He makes a bunch of references that they don't know, and it's not. You wouldn't expect them to know this because he is a older Gen X boomer, and they are young Zoomers who don't listen to Radiohead. Okay, that's fine. Have you ever heard the song "Creep"? And he goes, "I'm a creep, I'm a widow," and then you know that he is that guy. But his point becomes that Radiohead had that song, and then they were sued by the Hollies, I guess, because the melody was the same. It's the same melody. I didn't know, though, that the Hollies melody was also not theirs. I think it was Albert Hammond. Albert Hammond, 1972 or something, is the father of Albert Hammond Jr., who was the guitarist for the Strokes. And Albert Hammond Jr., I think, went to Le Rosey, the CIA boarding school, one in Switzerland, the one that Richard Helms went to, and Kim Jong-un went there for a little bit. Yeah, it's the one that what's the guy called? The Shah like went there, sent his sons there. All the, it's an elite boarding school. Le Rosie. Julian Casablancas went to, where did he go? He went to the Lycée Française or whatever, the one in New York, because his dad is that famous, like, I think, creeper photographer. What's his name? John Casablancas or whatever, fashion photographer. I think he's a sort of Jeff Stein related character. Anyway, so his point is that the music gets reused and echoes something that wasn't original, and that's supposed to be an allegory for their own religious status. And at this point, they're down in the dungeon, and they're like, "We don't care. Just let it. What is happening? Can we go?" And then let's see, the witch. She's a witch at this point, and she's behind. Okay, so one of the girls is trying to get out, like through the wall or some shit, and then the witch is like standing behind the blonde girl, Ringu style, and then says a bunch of unintelligible gibberish, and then falls down and dies. He tells them to check her pulse, check her heart, check and make sure that she has expired. And they say, yes, she's definitely expired. She's all nasty and wet looking. And then he says, what does he say? He says, I guess he comes down there with them. I don't know why they don't use the letter opener to smoke him and then run back upstairs and then get out. Just jump out the front window. But whatever. He says, you will witness a miracle because you'll witness a prophecy. She's a prophet, he says. She's woken up. She gives her gibberish speak or whatever. She's eating a poisoned blueberry pie. That's where the blueberry came from. And then the point of that is to say that she has crossed over to the other side, and like Hamlet with the undiscovered country, he wants to test like what they will see when they cross over and if they come back. And if they come back, then they're a prophet, and if they don't, then oh well. And then out of nowhere, and the brunette's like neck turns into a curtain of blood because he's got the Big 9 box cutter, and she's lies down on the ground, and she's gonna pass. And so now he's turned full like Bundy. And there's no change in his demeanor, and he's like very relaxed about all this stuff. So in other words, all of this stuff was, the other level of it was that it was the anticipation of the Askilla act, right? So this was his ritual. All this stuff, in one way was just for his own enjoyment. It was just like control. And so he reveals that his one true religion is the original religion for him, which he says is called control. And he is tested on this because the brunette also, like, she pushed back and she told him that he was wrong at a bunch of points, and that he was, some of the points were fallacious. And that she tells the blonde girl, her companion, that the only way they're going to get out is if they push back on his intellectual arguments, because it'll give him time, and somehow like that'll change their status. So the blonde girl finds it in herself to push back, and she's got good arguments. And fast forward to, he takes her through a new doorway into the super dungeon, into the show me the tunnels. This part is wild, because he goes through a set of doors, and back up in the study above the mantelpiece was a sketch, like a pencil drawing of Dante's Inferno. So it shows the 9 levels. So they are going into the model of his own Inferno that he's like constructed in this place. So they're going down. They go through the doors, through the 9th gate. Mr. Corso, listen to me very carefully, Mr. Corso. I think you are aware of the lengths which I am willing to go to get what I want. Remember that? 9th gate? when they go through these doors, they go through a bunch of junk and shit strewn everywhere. But there are runes and glyphs and sigils and Crowleyan symbolism and Levianic crosses and Setian shit. You see everything when you go through the door. So you're thinking, well, what is all this? Why does he have every single belief system in this house? Well, I guess because going through the inferno to the bottom, he's discovered that the one religion for him is control, which is ironic because he's going down into his ninth circle where he's going to meet the betrayer, Satan, upside down, if that's the inferno. But for the girl, she has to, in the inferno, remember, they have to go down to the bottom to get back up to the world. They can't go back up. They have to go all the way down. And that's where the body of Satan, like, inverts. They're crawling down and then up. That's how she gets back to the earth world or whatever. So I guess this is part of his discovery. He's gone through all this stuff, even into the dark arts. And then, you become aware that the control is actually the will, the exercise of the will. So it's just Crowleyan. It's Crowleyan thelema. It's the exercise of thelema to basically do whatever he wants and control whatever he wants. And his reason, his raison d'etre that he gives when they get into the final room, which is like cold but has this like mist timer. And we see, here we go, spoiler, show me the tunnels. We see these cages which have the prophet women in the cages. So they're locked up in the cages. And there are obvious parallels to, well, you know what, right? But it's women. It's women just like these two women. And they're all locked up. He's like watering them or some shit, and he's like totally normal. He takes some like hedge clippers and grabs like, one of the girl's hands and like clops off her finger, and she screams, and he's like, "See, I'm Hugh Grant. I can do whatever I want. It's will. It's control." Okay. And then the blonde girl pushes back on this and is like, "This is a bunch of bullshit." She gives her argument, which you can watch the movie to see that. But the point is that they go back. They end up back in the dungeon room, and she takes out the letter opener and bam, it goes right through his neck, and he's like, and he pulls it out, and he has box cuttered her in the gut, and then at this point, guess what? Now, in the interim, he tried to trick the blonde girl to say that the whole point of this, the one religion, was the simulation theory, which he explains, and he says everybody we meet is an NPC. So this is they keep adding this sort of stuff as a nod to culture war or whatever into films now. But she calls him out on it and says, "This is untestable. This is not what you meant. I think you're lying, and you're trying to trick me because your argument earlier was that do I just believe everything everyone tells me? And if I'm to cross through the simulation into the other side, into the real world, it's untestable because I can't get back to tell you about it. So there would be no point." And he says, "Oh, okay. You realized I was lying." That's when he reveals the control thing. But then he says, all of this is happening because just like in that movie Speak No Evil, which I covered on the member stream with the dude who looks just like me in the shirt, McAvoy, he says, all this is happening because you let me do this. You let it happen. You walked right into it. You made the decisions, and you're here because you wanted to be, which is, that's pretty complex and layered because in a sense it's true. And he's also saying that the cages down there, that they want to be there. Well, they don't, but they walked into the place where it happened because he's a psychopathic Thelemite, I guess. But also because if they're in the hell world, then that is true in a sense, that the hell world is where the people there want to be. They want to be there. They made the choice to want to be there. They want absolute liberation with no consequences, nothing, to do whatever they want in hell zone. So that's where they want to be. And that's where he obviously, he wants to rule over all of this like some sort of Minos. Well, his own prediction about the prophet women comes true because he gets his Dexter style because the brunette has woken back up. She's risen. They even checked her pulse. They thought she was gone, smoked, but yeah, she wasn't. So she wakes up and smokes him, and then she's gone. So look, she gave her life right to protect her friend. And in the meantime, there is a guy looking for them. He's the elder at the Mormon place, and that's Topher Grace in a wig and some 50s glasses or whatever. But he comes to the door and he's like, did you see these women? You talking about some great big fat person? He says, okay, leaves, comes back. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, have you heard of us? And he gives him a leaflet instead of like going in and trying to find him. He's worthless. Although he did look for him. This whole setup also reminded me of there are echoes of the Dutroux events, right, in Belgium. Everyone here is aware of all that. I can't go into that here, but it's two women in the dungeon, all the awful stuff, and I wonder if the filmmakers are aware of that sort of resonance of that happening. Probably not. Maybe. Irregardless, it still stands to reason that all of these things have similarities because it all ends up in this hellish world of Minos controlling the labyrinth, where he himself is also the Minotaur, taking his sacrifices. And so it didn't end up being Cannonball, and it didn't end up being the most dangerous game, but it did in a way. It was kind of that. There are obvious Gnostic elements throughout the whole thing. I mean, it's that's part of it. But the girl gets away, and now it's daytime. She walks through the snow, and it's a new day. It's a new dawn. And BLA once said skunk wig, and I found that to be a hilarious visual. Yeah, yes. Jason, the skunk wig, for those who don't know, the skunk wig is the early term for the mullet in the 90s. The guy who taught us dare at school. All right, kids, look at this. This is what they call ice. It's the newest thing. It's lethal. That guy. I've only drawn my piece 33 times in the line of duty. One time was last week. They dramatized it on America's Most Wanted. I played myself. That was true, that guy. There was a guy on Angel Dust. He had an axe. He thought he was on fire. He jumped out the window of a second-story factory. We had to smoke him about 179 times. I had to reload my clip. So don't try to grab this right here. He had a skunk wig. He had a skunk wig mullet with like a lightning bolt of white, shocking hair right down the middle. The guy who taught dare in, what was that? 4th grade. I saw that same dude later because he was security at a Widespread Panic concert when I was in upper school, as we called it. Worst concert I've ever been to. It was awful. Terrible. I thought it would be like the Fish concert I went to. It was not. There was a 49-minute bongo solo by like some boomer who for some reason was in the band. You guys, you know who Widespread Panic is, right? Play Coconut. Terrible. Hey, if you like them, that's good. That's your thing. That's cool. So anyway, so that's Heretic. That's only the first movie. We got another movie to cover here. The next movie is called CUCKOO. I'm going to get to that in a second. CUCKOO, let me in. Not today, not yesterday. I'll come back tomorrow. Ooh. Nick Cage, Long Legs. My name's Long Legs. I'm here to beg for a keg. I like making dolls. That movie, why the thing with the doll with the ball in the head? Why did they go with that? They shouldn't have done that. Also, why the first day Dr. Lecter agent on the job, and they put her on the Lecter unit, right, to go catch the. I mean, come on. You knew watching Longlegs. Spoiler. You knew what I did when I watched it, that the first scene was going to end up being a foreshadow. That was going to be her. And then when they showed her in the second scene as the brand new rookie with sort of second sight, that was the same. That was her, and that she had some sort of connection to this whole thing. You knew her mom was going to be bad because the first time you saw her, she was like, "Oh, you need to come back home." Nope. It was off, right? And then Longlegs goes into town to like the Hobby Lobby to buy doll parts. Guy's just walking around. Longlegs is just walking around his little town, and he's the doll maker. Everybody's like, all right. No, we didn't notice anything. Hello, I'm here to buy some doll shoes. Okay. Anyway, so there's a streamer who is exactly like Longlegs. Who is it? Is it that you guys know that dude that Mersh and Royce talk about all the time? What's his name? Hypernova. Y'all know who that is? That reminds me of Longlegs. All that business. Irregardless, let's talk about CUCKOO in a second. CUCKOO, this is a German movie. It's in English, but it's filmed in Germany, in the Bavaria, with Dan Stevens. Do you know who Dan Stevens is? Synchro, it's weird because somebody had just mentioned Dan Stevens randomly, like 2 hours before he appeared in this movie that I watched. Also, another synchro, I got to give a shout out to Circle G, because in our little group chat, he asked for recommendations for creature features, movies with creatures. And I gave a recommendation for the movie Swamp Thing. And guess what? Swamp Thing is mentioned in one of these two. Was it Heretic? I think it was Heretic. They mentioned the movie Swamp Thing. So random. Why would that come up twice in one day, like 2 hours apart? Synchro, dude. So let's talk about the movie CUCKOO. But first, hey, you guys, make sure you like the stream. Please like the stream. Helps me out if you like it. Also, thanks for being here in the chat. Thanks for holding it down here, Jason. Mixky, my friend Mikhail. You guys, make sure you follow him on Instagram there and on YouTube. Tech Noir Graphics, my good friend there, Mixky. And make sure that you leave a comment afterwards. Just comment. Just say comment. I'll go. Whatever you want. It helps me out. Thank you for watching my last few streams here. They're doing well. Especially Neon Demon. I really like doing that one. Neon Demon and Drive, Ex Machina, Lars and the Real Girl. I've been doing a lot of movie streams recently, just because I've been watching a lot of films and I've seen some, things have come back up, and I was really glad to see 2 new movies that kind of piqued my interest. Yo, shouts out to Jacob right there, who drops $10. Thank you so much. Hey, no comment. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. Let me give you a like. Why can't I like it? Let me give you a heart. There you go. There's my heart. Thank you so much. Yeah, you guys, you can support me via Super Chats right there. You can leave me a comment. You can actually Super Chat anytime. You can Super Thanks me. You can leave me a comment, ask me a question. Ask me a question about literature or film or whatever. Whatever you want. Also, you can support me via the links that the great mods have been dropping this whole time and that are in the video description and in the channel description. And you can support me right here. Yeah, thank you, Jason, for dropping that. There you go. I just dropped it again. There's the PayPal. You can drop me. You can help support me. Help me get books. Appreciate you so much. Yep. He's dropping my Cash App also and all those links. Thank you, you guys, if you want to support me. I'll get to those at the end. Let's do CUCKOO. Do you want to? Listen, man, I got to get another Red Bull here. Can you give me a second here? We're going late night. We're really night crawling here for this one. And I'm glad to be doing this one because after all, it is a work week coming up, but guess what? the week after that, we got a work week, and then the week after that is Thanksgiving. Thank goodness. I can't wait for Thanksgiving. By the way, the first Thanksgiving in America was here, right down the road from me. It was right here. As I say every year, they didn't give thanks. They didn't give thanks for the maize and the corn. That's not what Thanksgiving is. Thanksgiving was because they got here across the ocean and they gave thanks to God for helping them with their journey. The Godspeed, yes. One of my old ancestors was on one of those ships that came here to the Old Dominion, to Virginia, and we've been here ever since. In the Old Dominion in Old Virginia, right, with the tobacco and the Marlboro. No, but yeah, that's true. But that's fine, because, Plymouth Rock, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. What's the next part? Plymouth Rock landed on us. I've been to Massachusetts one time. I like I like the Massachusetts accent. Other people find it whatever, but I don't care. I think it's cool. I like all those New England accents. I was told to stay away from those places when I was a lad because I'm from down here, but I do like them. I do like those places. I've even been to Maine. That Maine accent. Whatever, that's neither here nor there. So let's get to CUCKOO in a second. I gotta go get a drink here. Give me 1 second here, y'all. Don't leave. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. I will be right back. We're going to talk about CUCKOO. Right back. CUCKOO. CUCKOO. Yo, y'all ready to talk about CUCKOO? All right, so this film, this is also a new film, and I didn't see it. I guess it came out in the cinemas, but it's it's a European, I guess Anglo, American European film with Dan Stevens, who's been in a bunch of stuff, and you'll recognize him right when you see him. I can't name anything else he was in off the top of my head, but he's very good in this, and in fact, this is exactly what I was talking about recently with movies having not being packed with major label, A-list actors, right? That Whenever that happens, especially like, Christopher Nolan doing that, somehow you would think that it would make the movie stronger and more appealing, but it always like it's a weakness. And so with this movie, what I liked was that it had a face that I recognized. It had Dan Stevens, and it also had this guy Martin Sakis, I guess, who is in many films. Good character actor, European character actor. I think he's like Czech. Doesn't play a major role in this, and it had, a bunch of new faces or whatever. But that was a strength because part of this movie, which is, I liked this film. It was pretty unpredictable in most ways. I mean, I think that, again, it's like any of us watching a movie, you ought to be able to spot and predict some of the major elements and themes, if not like what, the arc. Because movies, like they only have so many things they can do in a movie, and especially like with the hero's journey. Who's going to be the hero? Are they going to be an anti-hero? Are they going to be disturbed? What's their complex? What's their weakness? What are they trying to achieve? And you can really figure those things out a lot, like within the first minute or 2 minutes. And in terms of the layers of gaining knowledge in the education system, the taxonomical system, prediction is one of the further on. It's not level one. Prediction is moving up, being able to predict what will happen based on what you've read or what you've seen. The final level, of course, is creation, going off and making something yourself. And that's what we really, that's my goal to do all this. Please, if you're a publisher out there and you happen to hear this or see this, please reach out to me, madmaximalism with 2x's at gmail.com. I'm trying to publish my books. No, but for real. One day they're going to be published, and I'm going to send out some copies to all you people, all you wonderful special beings out there, and you're going to go, or you're going to go, whoa, or you're going to go, the horror. Able to utilize their primordial instincts to kill without judgment, because it's judgment that defeats us. There's nothing I detest more than the stench of lies. You'll be able to read my novel, Monarch, when it gets done. And my other novel, West Hampton, which is spicy, but you'll like it, I think. And my book of poems those are my goals. Anyway, I'm sharing them with you because you're special beings. So this movie was unpredictable in a sense. I thought within the first 30 seconds that this would be MK Ultra, like MK Ultra, MK Delta, MK Often. There would be some sort of occult element in it. There would be brainwashing, hypnotic programming, TBMC, right? SRA or TBMC, or Most Dangerous Game. And yes, there's always some sort of Gnostic, breaking on through the other side in these films. It sort of goes without saying at this point. Sophia characters, there's a kind of demiurge. But to see all of those things kind of thrown into one film was pretty wild. Like that these things are just happening in movies now. Like the occultism and the esoteric elements are no longer like alluded to in a lot of these movies. Now they're just that's the literal that's the surface level of a lot of these films. Heretic, it's like, well, the title is Heretic, so that's already, we know there is some sort of religious journey happening here, and how will it be subverted, right? I didn't really, by the way, with that movie, I didn't really like hit much on the Mormon thing itself, because I'm not, that's not my area. I just know what pretty much everybody else knows. So I just was looking at it from the point of view of, why would they have Mormons be the ones who visited his house? Well, because of where they were, the location, and because of the overt, like the missionary aspect of it, and because the girls in a duo, and because of the caged prophets that he is going for in it. So I thought that sort of fit the plot. Also because it seems that he's obviously gone through all of the different systems. He mentions it, Islam, Judaism. He's gone through everything. So maybe these are like part of his collection, I guess. But with this movie, it was weird because it starts off disturbing, and I thought right away, please don't be another Midsommar type movie, because that movie also begins like in a horrific, a shocking trauma, terror right away, right? That movie begins with the moaning and screaming and the S side of the family and the tubes and the smoke and carbon. It's just awful. It's awful how it begins and how slow and deliberate it is, and it's already happened. There's nothing you can do. It's terrible. Well, this movie begins with someone like a kid, I guess, and we can hear parents arguing, and we see shadows, and then we start to hear like a high frequency drone, and we see her start to seize. She's like, this girl we're seeing in this bedroom is seizing, and there are lights on in her bedroom, but she's seizing, and right away you're drawn into the story because you think, oh God, this poor girl. You can already tell that whatever her life is, it seems hellish right away. The parents are arguing so loudly. It doesn't sound good, but is that just what we assume? And then we see her neck skin start to flutter, and then she goes downstairs, opens the door, and just runs out and runs into the forest. And we see a dude come out, look out the door and look for her. We hear a voiceover say something like, "Oh, you've lost another one. That isn't good for us." And then the movie totally changes, and now we see a family, Shining style, driving through the mountains, and it's obviously, they say it's the Bavarian Alps, but it's clearly Germany. Bright day, beautiful forest. The air looks happy and clean. They end up at a very, I don't know what the aesthetic is here. It's present day, but it's like mid-century wood, not Frank Lloyd Wright, but sort of 70s style, mid-century or something. This resort, they end up at a resort, and the family is there's Martin Sakis. There's a Asian mother. She has a daughter in the backseat, little girl. And then the main character here, who's what do we call this character? We call this character, we'll call this character Naomi, MK Naomi. How about that? That's a sub-project. So MK Naomi's in the back seat, listening to music, and then there's some sort of sibling rivalry. We figure out they're not full sisters, or we don't know what's going on. There's some sort of weird dynamic. MK Naomi seems angsty, seems to be listening to goth wave or something on an analog set of headphones, because it's kitsch. And they get to this resort, and then they're greeted by the guru in white, who is Dan Stevens with his John Lennon glasses on. And he's weird right away because he approaches the car, and he puts his hand on the open window of Martin Sakis's door, and he's talking to the rest of the family, but it's like he's stopping him from getting out of the car. And it goes on for so long that you can tell it's intentional and some sort of power move that he's doing. Well, it's his resort, and he has brought them there because they are going to design the new hospital, I guess, the new health center, he calls it. So there's a resort hotel, and then there are bungalows, and then Dan Stevens, the guru, lives above all that. So he's obviously right away, yo, big up, love. What's up, Hurry Love? Big up to you. Thanks for joining us. Hey, everybody out there, thanks for joining me for this night crawling session here, talking about these two films, I'm kind of meandering through them in terms of my analysis, but that's okay because I don't feel any time pressure here. So, if you're listening and you want to keep listening, that's cool. Please drop a like. If you're listening driving out there, if you're in the snow, maybe you're driving through the snow of Colorado, Shining style. Maybe you're in the desert looking at the lightning. Maybe it's daytime and you're going on your lunch break. Whatever it is, if you're at work listening to me, whatever. Thank you for coming here. Appreciate you. Hope I can provide some deep film analysis for you. And if you haven't seen these movies, I mean, I'm sure I recommend them. I've also watched them so you don't have to. But I think it's important to cover things like this to discuss the state of the art of film, especially when they're brand new. I mean, we got to talk about new stuff. Side note, the next stream I'll be doing will be an analysis of J.G. Ballard's The Drowned World, which is his second novel. I just happened to pick it up, and it's an ecological, environmental, techno, neuronics, techno thriller, postmodern, end of the world dystopian drama, and it's very good. Well, I've covered a bunch of J.G. Ballard here, and I like. He's one of the postmodern novelists that I think provides a cornerstone for the entire state we're in right now in terms of art. You know, Bret Easton Ellis, Don DeLeo, Cormac McCarthy, J.G. Ballard, and it's pretty ahead of its time. It talks about environmental collapse and all this stuff before people were really doing that in the 70s. But that's not why it's interesting. But we'll get to that later in the week. A true literary analysis without a movie. Back to CUCKOO here. CUCKOO. Even the word cuckoo throws me off. I don't like the word. Cuckoo clocks are always weird to me. And I must not be alone in that because that's the central symbolism of the film. Of course, when you watch movies, you wonder, why is it titled this? If you're like Peter Griffin, you watch a movie and they say, it's a clear and present danger. That's the movie. What I'm looking for is a few good men. And I don't, give me back my family. Well, CUCKOO, because we hear this sound, right, when they get there. They get to this resort. They get their rooms. It's, you know, they have these, they are architects or whatever. Oh, I just realized the obvious Masonic symbolism right there, tied in with the dualistic, Gnostic, liberator element in the film, which I'll get to. But they're going to design this new health center, which is clearly going to be some sort of MK Ultra programming facility. This is like Esalen or something. It's clearly that when you watch it. I can't imagine someone watching this film and not like thinking of that right away when we learn that there's a health center and this guy's in charge. Like, Dan Stevens is clearly the villain right when he appears. And what I liked is that was not contested in the movie. Like, he remains the obvious villain throughout the film. And I thought that alone was kind of clever. They didn't try to do something, like superficially tricky with that. Oh, he's actually the father figure and he's there to save everyone. Well, that kind of, they kind of try to bring that up in the film. Because I guess in a way he's doing that as a Jose Delgado, Dr. Green type of character here. But no, he's clearly the villain. He shows up and he's like, yeah, very nice to see you. Hello. What's her name? What's MK? Hello, MK Naomi. Very, very good to see you. Your father. Welcome to Bavaria. So we can't help but think of the things that happened in that place in that time, and that there's going to be something related to that, right? That has to inform the story somehow, and it does, without being too obvious about it, but it does. And so the family is settling into their house, and then he offers MK Naomi a job at the hotel as a front desk clerk, which the character doesn't want to take, or does want to take. The father doesn't want her because he there's an obvious like uncomfortable thing here. He does that because he walks into the bedroom and like sits on the bed and talks to the character, and you're like, the boundaries here are very weird. Weirdly, he's crossing weird physical, spatial boundaries with these people, and what's happening here? You know, is he when he talks to people? Also, he has a kind of hypnotic Svengali cadence, and his eyes can't really be that blue. I mean, the color palette is like they're really emphasized. His deep hypnotic eyes, as Norm said about that shrankly, crankly character. Well, MK Naomi says, yeah, I'll take the job. Sure. I need something to do. So goes down to front desk, gets trained by this other woman. And I found this pretty interesting because I worked at a weird hotel. That was my second ever job. I was 19. Was I 19? I was 19 years old. And I worked at a very weird hotel in the city, old hotel that was LARPing as a fully functioning renovated hotel, but actually only had one floor renovated. And there was a haunted floor. The elevator went up to that floor before it went to any other floor. And the maintenance guy, he would, like, I worked the night shift sometimes. It'd be 3 a.m. I'm going to lunch. You want to see the floor? So he took me up to the floor, and in the corner, it still had shag carpets from the 70s. And in one of the rooms, there were bullet holes in the corner of the room, and he was like, "That's where this Kent State type of guy like opened fire on the street, and this is where they got him right here." So the elevator always went to that floor. It was very weird. Elvis always took the penthouse of the hotel. But it was weird. There'd be like one person ever coming in to stay there, and it had a creepy aura in it. I read like 200 books while I worked there for the summer. All I did for the whole shift was read, and carry a lead pipe back to the garbage room to make sure that the hobo demons hadn't snuck in and weren't sleeping in there. He told me to take a lead pipe with me just in case. You know, at the end of the summer, we're having Mary J. Blige. What did he call her? He called her Mary J. Blige. She's coming to stay here and do a concert. Mary J. Blige. They filmed Evan Almighty at that hotel. The Steve Carell sequel to Bruce Almighty. Whatever, random. Anyway, so she's at this creepy hotel, which is very nice looking, but these weird people start wandering in and out. Like this woman comes in like in a weird gown looking through the Lucozade and like just throws up on the floor randomly. And she's like Naomi's like, what the fuck? And nobody really does anything about it. So it seems like an alien world, like it's alienating because the main character, like it's too obvious to even ask what just happened or what do we do, because nobody even seems to register like that happened. Then this kind of rock and roller like 20s chick comes in and is staying there for some reason, and they like the two of them have some weird chemistry or something. And then Dan Stevens, the guru, tells the main character, I'll come and pick you up and drive you back to your home. Don't go out after dark. Well, she goes out anyway. She gets on her bike and she starts riding home. And she's riding her bike, and then we pan over. We see a side shot of her riding her bike through the woods at night, through the German woods at night. And we see like a shadow like running through the woods. Oh, man. This part's pretty good. We see a shadow like running through the woods, and then we see that it's like got white, like a white coat. And then we see it's a woman and like running very fast. And then we see a shot. This was very clever. The shot is from the front, and we see the shadow of Naomi characters like riding the bike, and there's another shadow behind. T.S. Eliot, right? Who is the second shadow? Who is that second shadow beside me? There was one. Now there are two. Well, she kind of turns around, and there is a woman, like, full-on Terminator 2 style, like, right behind her, running, chasing her on the road, going, cuckoo, cuckoo, making these weird noises, high frequency. And so she rides, like, so fast, gets away, goes to the health center hospital, tries to get in the front door. Seems like there's no one there. They let her in. She runs straight into a glass door, shatters the door, has a contusion on her head. She's bleeding from her head. Glass doors, right, in films and literature are the psyche is injured or split, right? She's got to figure out what's happening, who she is, make her way through the maze, or go through the window or through the looking glass. But she gets stopped at the looking glass. Then when the orderlies get there, like there's no demon woman there anymore, and they don't believe her. Well, we can figure that they don't believe her because this whole place is like some sort of terrible Delgado Montauk facility or something. So this is all part of the psyop, right? Well, we also see that we also see the demon woman. What is she? She's chasing someone else. We see her when they first get there. The main character goes in the bathroom stall, and there's like these weird boots. Who do the boots belong to? And then like when she leaves the bathroom, there's no one there, but it's because the demon woman's like perched on the toilet with her feet up. So she's perched cuckoo. So what's the deal with the birds? Then I'm skipping a bunch of stuff here, but next she's on her bed at home. The main character is on the bed at home. And I'm not addressing the thing that you see in this movie because we all, I think in a way it's clever that they did that thing with the character that they cast, because if a character in a movie is alienated and the surroundings don't make sense and the character's trying to find out who they are, then there's some sort of dissociation happening. And that makes sense that on a meta level with the casting that would be what happens. So I don't need to address that thing. Everybody knows that. Plus, toss. I don't want to hit the toss. So I'm just going to keep saying Naomi. MK Naomi. So MK Naomi is on the bed listening to like the XX or whatever with these headphones on and playing the bass. This reminded me of, what's the Smashing Pumpkins bassist name? Melissa. Who was that? Darcy. It's reminding me of like Darcy. This is just the story of Darcy before Smashing Pumpkins, like on a bed playing bass to this song. And then we see her little sister come into the room and she like wants to participate in some way or something. But she is mute. She can hear, but she is mute. She can't speak. So what's the deal with that, right? Think of The Shining and Danny, right, and Tony, and red rum, and speaks through his finger, and the little boy that lives in his mouth. So there's something going on with the sister here, but she wants to be friends with her older sibling, and all of a sudden we hear the high frequency bird noise or whatever it is, the programming call. And when this happens, by the way, we see the point of view of the Naomi character is that like there's some sort of repetition, like there's a dissociation. Something happens, then it happens again, and then it happens again. So it's like in a set of threes, like time is returning. So how does she fit into the story right here? And then when she looks at her little sister is like shaking like demonically, and then like sort of wakes up and then scratches her on the face. Okay, so now I'm worried when I watch it that they're here because of the little sister, right? That something has happened to her, and that she is the target of all this MK Ultra stuff, which seems to be happening. Spoilers throughout the whole thing. I can't do a deep analysis if I don't talk about this like in a play-by-play. So what happens in terms of the family dynamic is that clearly the the parents favor the little sister, and she's got something medically happening besides her muteness, but they favor her, and it's not just the angst and anxiety of the older sibling. I mean, it's evident when you watch it that when things happen to her, like for instance, when she runs into the window and gets the concussion, she's bleeding from the head. She actually runs into her dad, like pushing her little sister in a wheelchair, getting ready for some operation, and her dad like looks at her and is like, "Okay, all right, okay," and then goes back to the little sister. And then there comes a point in the film where she tries to explain something about what's happening, and they don't listen. And they start to direct the little sister to not listen to music. She wants to listen to the music that the older sibling's listening to. Like she's learning from her. She wants to have something in common. And they tell her, don't listen to music anymore. Doctor doesn't recommend it. They said it's bad for you because of her hearing and her voice. We learn later that there's a reason for that, why they don't want her to have headphones and music on. And older sibling is standing, at the top of the stairs and is telling them, why are you telling her not to listen to music? What do you care? And that's cool because the beginning of the film, there's some sort of like, she doesn't like the little sister and even says at the hotel that that's not her sister, that they're half sisters, but she says she's not my sister, which turns out to be true in the film. But now she's at a point where she's trying to look out for her sibling, and the parents are being weird. And then she even points out, she says, what the fuck is happening here? Why are we here? This is weird. Why is nobody talking about this? Why'd they bring us all the way here? And they're like, well, we're designing the medical facility. They're like, yeah, but that's not normal that we're all here for this. That never happens, that you go live at the place. Why is the doctor coming by? Why can't she listen to music? And they basically brush her off. And it's in such a way that she gets this look on her face, or the character gets a look on the face where when I saw this in the film, I thought this was pretty powerful and good character development, because it's clear that the character is totally unloved and unwanted, and that's never spoken in the movie, but it's shown in how they react to each other. And I think when I saw it, I didn't think I was reading too much into it. I thought this was obvious in the movie. I think that people could probably, agree with this, seeing it, that if you haven't seen this in your own life or in another person that it's a palpable facial expression that a person will have. And it's really terrible. And that's why I thought it was a good movie, because there's a reason why this main character is so estranged from reality, because it is a weird reality that they're in, and nobody will acknowledge it. It's kind of like when something crazy happens and nobody remarks on it, and you're like, did that even happen? And then you start to question whether that was even real or not. How could that have just happened and nobody even said anything? Which, by the way, has happened to me many, many times. I don't know why people are like that. I don't know. Example. When I was living in England, walk into a rehearsal, and I tell you guys this story. You remember this? The truck was coming up the road, and it was like a yellow pickup truck. So it was very weird to see that, because they don't have those. I'd never seen that in England before. And it came up the road, and I was crossing the street. They had a stop sign. They just kept going and came right at me. I had to jump on the roof, on the hood of the truck, and roll off like a stunt man. And they just kept going and then turned. And I was and then I was just standing in the road did that, am I crazy, or did that really happen? What the fuck? Who would run into a person and then just keep going like that? Who was driving? What is that? What just happened? How did I manage to expertly roll off the hood of a moving car like that and remain unhurt? That was crazy. But I was just, and there was nobody else there with me to go, what the fuck? But it happened. It definitely happened. And I saw the truck later, by the way. Anyway, I'll leave the story at that. But Jake Paul had what did you say, Melly? Jake Paul had a dove in a cage during the entrance. I thought he was going to, tear the head off Ozzy Osbourne style. Ugh. Did he really? He had a dove in a cage? There was first of all, I didn't watch that match live. I watched the highlights later, and it's like, now in retrospect, it's like, what in the world? I like Tyson a lot, and I really liked his speaking tour documentary when he did that. Remember that? When he was like doing that autobiographical, like, spoken word tour about his life. That was like one of the most fascinating things I've ever listened to. It was so crazy. And his stories are so wild, and all that he went through before he became a boxer and all that. You can clearly see that in how and why he fights and all that. And I don't know. I guess everybody in the world's already commented on that, and it's sort of irrelevant to this, maybe. Then again, like the way he was standing there before and afterwards, it's also, there's some sort of alienation. Am I really here? Is he really here in this thing? And why would he be here? It was the worst fight I've seen in a while. Yeah, I mean, there's a weird thing. Side note here. There's a weird thing happening with boxing is like, where is boxing? What happened? And also in UFC, whenever I watch a UFC, and it's not often, I just see clips sometimes, but when I see like the average UFC fight, there's this weird thing with the punches and strikes, where when you're watching it, it's like I always question why is the punch like that? It never seems to be a conventional, actual hard punch. When of course, when I compare it to like a heavyweight boxing match, that's probably an unfair comparison. But this was a Tyson, Jake Paul match was heavyweight, and it's like, is it because of the stamina? Is it because are they pulling their punches? What's happening when you watch Tyson in the 80s and 90s, right? And he does his gut punch uppercut combo. You watch him fight, and you go, oh, I mean that looks awful, right? Or like when you watch, have you guys seen that Michael Mann movie, Ali, with William Smith? When he fights Foreman in the movie, I thought that was a really good scene. The movie isn't great, but when you watch that scene, there's a voiceover, I think, with William Smith talking about how, what I got from it when I watched it once was that Ali was not going to stop, and that you could see his brain damage happening right there, like live, in the film, that was what was going to happen, and that was the price he was going to pay, because Foreman, remember Foreman had that comeback, like George Foreman's punch. I mean, dude, have you ever seen, what's his name, Butterbean? Is it Butterbean? You ever seen Butterbean fight? I mean, Butterbean beat Mike Tyson, I think. Didn't he? Does anybody know boxing? Is that the dude's name, Butterbean? That dude from Alabama. Butterbean. Yeah, Butterbean. Oh, he's Tyson's age, yeah. Yeah, If you don't know who Butterbean is, I'm sure you guys do, but if you don't know who Butterbean is, look him up. Just watch his story on YouTube. And click on any of them. Like, he came from Alabama. He was just like a dude who was working, and he just fought in one match, and they were like, "Oh my gosh!" And then he ended up going up and up and up. Thank you, Tommy. There's Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah, was it worth it? Yeah, it's worth it. If you're strong enough, yes. Butterbean said it was worth it. The dude, like, he'll take like 400 punches and then punch a guy one time, and you're like, oh my, I believe that. But yeah, before that match the other night, I kept thinking like I don't know how they would. There's the obvious question of is this just some sort of exhibition, like entertainment theater? But I don't know how Mike Tyson would actually be able to. I don't know if he would actually do that, if he would be able to do that when he's in a match. But then in hindsight, it's like, dude, the guy is. Why would they put him up to that? Obviously for money, but in pride. And I think that there's honor in him doing it in a way. I don't think it's dishonorable for him. But like, what? Like what? Is it just a Netflix internet thing where we're gonna put old lions up like this and do this? I don't know. I like Jake Paul's. Was it Jake Paul who did the interview with Donaldo Trump, or was that Logan? I don't know. I don't really care. I mean, I thought that was a good interview. I didn't watch the match. I saw the highlights. I saw the interview that Tyson did with the kid, like the little girl journalist with the mic, asked him a question about legacy, and his response to that was the biggest black pill response I've ever heard in my life. Legacy, I don't know about legacy. I think we're all just searching for our place in the dirt. Don't mean nothing or whatever. That was pretty good. Did y'all see that little clip? Butterbean. Yeah, I like Butterbean. I think Butterbean's he's like a family guy. He's got a restaurant in Alabama. He's trying to support his family, and damn, what a beast. Awesome. Mike's shroomed out in his. Yeah. I mean, I've seen those clips. I don't really watch those clips of him doing all that. I saw the one with Boosie, right, where he's like, yeah, but why are you always talking about that? I mean, do you think there's some truth to that 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 you're Skittles? I saw that. Also, I don't really like Mike Tyson impressions. I think that's like, I don't know. I think that's like low-hanging fruit. I don't know. That's too boomer to do that kind of impression. Am I talking loud enough, or am I? Because I'm right on the mic, and the volume is always different. Like the levels are the same, but it always changes. So sometimes it's super loud, sometimes it's too gainy. I hope I'm not mumbling for anybody. I hope you can hear me. Hope I'm not doing too many ums and ahs for you, and you don't hate the tangents here. I just did an But yeah, I mean, that was just an interesting. Thank you so much. That was an interesting event in the weird, like people that are like, this is a simulation. I mean, the Tyson stuff is like. I think that feeds into that like in a huge way. It must. I mean, it's whatever. I don't know. And then Donaldo at the UFC fight, was that last night when the guy won and did the dance? Again, it's like you saw him win the thing, and the punches he was throwing. I probably just don't understand how UFC works. So I don't have any. I'm not criticizing it. Every time I watch it, I just don't really get it. But I understand how it's so popular. I get that, and I think it's a great thing. I think it's cool. But yeah. So anyway, hey, hey, what's up, T? I didn't watch the match, but yeah. Mike Tyson is still the man. Yes, I don't care about the outcome. Jake Paul, from what I saw, seemed respectful. Yeah, I like that. One thing I like about Mike is the way he talks about his former opponent, his old opponents, right? Because he's an Achilles before the match, and then afterwards, especially later on, years later, he'll talk about him like he's a true boxer, not only because of his record and his fights, but because of his kind of the way that somebody who's really great at something has an encyclopedic knowledge of everything about the thing. Like Norm talking about comedians and comedy. and jokes. He knows every joke and whoever said it ever. And Mike is kind of like that with Poxy, and I like listening to him about that. I don't really want to listen to him on shrooms. I don't really like that, but I hope he finds some peace and joy in his life. I just think one of the wildest things I ever heard him say, which was unbelievably, I mean, this is like crazy. I didn't expect this. When they asked him who he would fight, if he could fight anybody in the world, and he said Achilles. No further comment necessary. That's like Herodotus or something. That's like incredibly poetic. It's I guess it's Homeric, right? Hey, what's up there? Mark drops gifted 5 Bazed Analyzer memberships. Thank you so much. Yep, Melly, Sabrina. Hold on, I can't read that. Thank you. Thank you, everybody who's a new member. Appreciate that. And thank you so much, Mark Turner, for gifting those memberships. My screens are doing an auto dim, and I never have turned that on. And I went to the settings, made sure that all that stuff was off, and it's still doing it. It's going in and out. Why is it doing that? Listen, I need to call my grandson. I've got my glasses. I've got my Rascal. I've got my hover round. What's that phone called with the big numbers? What do you call that? My jitterbug. I got my jitterbug. My Werthers. I saved my Werthers in my pocket. My chunky sweater. And looks like we're going to get some rain. But don't we need it? Y'all staying hydrated out there? All right, so let's get back to CUCKOO after that long tangent. And let's wrap this up here. CUCKOO, there's a weird demonic woman like running through the woods, right? The CUCKOO main character meets this guy who comes into the hotel and says that he is a detective and he needs help finding this person, and come and talk to him in his room about the air conditioning if there is a problem later, which is his little code because Dan Stevens' guru is standing behind him and he doesn't trust the guru, right? I forget the characters' names. It's whatever. Well, we see Guru Dan Stevens go out into the grassy backyard looking at the Alps, and he has a flute with him, and he does like a little flute bird call, and he says it's time for them to come home. It's obvious that this is their programming code or their activation or their return signal, and we don't see the character yet, but it reminded me a lot of Get Out. There are Get Out elements in this. It's kind of a parallel story to that. So there's hypnotism, mind control. I mean, the characters even call out like, "Why are you trying to hypnotize me?" Just by speaking. And I think that there are people that can do that, especially these MK people can do that. There's that video that's still up on YouTube of it's not Delgado, it's not Jolene West, it's maybe Estabrooks, right? And he's demonstrating the hypnotic programming, and he gets the girl to like reach down and get the can of Coke, and then says, "Get the can," and like she grabs like a snake and thinking it's a can. He tells her it's a can, but it's a snake, and she picks it up, and then he says, grab the strawberry or whatever, and it's a gun, and she like pulls the trigger, and it I'm sure people watch that and go, "Oh, I don't know what this is, but it's staged," and it could be, but if anything, it demonstrates like what the programming, the hypnotic Manchurian candidate Candy Jones sort of programming that I think certainly exists even now Another good example in film of that is in the Bourne is the one with Jeremy Renner, the Bourne movie with Jeremy Renner, where the woman is working at what looks like what's it called? What's the name of the biological center in Maryland? Right, the one with what's it called? Damn it. The CIA facility, the biological weapons place in Maryland, where they did the God, I can't remember anybody's name. Fort Detrick. She's working in like Fort Detrick, and remember the experimentation. It's like all cellular, and they're coming in and taking samples of the MK Delta born people, and then the guy gets activated, and he starts doing a James Holmes on the facility. Right, and he's just totally dead-eyed. I mean, I think that's probably a truthful depiction of some of this stuff. Remember my ELF weapon, that guy? Anyway, so the guy's doing his programming flute call out in the woods, and we know that the woman in the white coat is there's something birdish about her. Eventually, we see that the Naomi main character is taken by Dan Stevens and taken into like his home, I guess, and he leads her through this corridor and then into this room where there is an empty pool and there's a bed down in the empty pool, but this is where she's going to stay. And now he sort of reveals part of his plan. And the empty pool thing was interesting because we see that symbolism all the time. We saw it. That's, the empty pools at the Biltmore, the ones in the awful, let's see, Papa John's Gate, we'll say, stuff with Pon Jodesta and his creepy satanic paintings with the pools. Right, so that. And then also I didn't mention that MK Naomi tries to run away and leave the hotel with the hipster guest because they're going to go to Paris together. And they're in the car on the way driving through the dark, the dark roads of the Alps when we see the CUCKOO woman standing in the middle of the road. They veer off, they flip the car. She wakes up in the hospital. She's got a broken arm. It's her left. Is it her left arm? It's her left. Yeah, it's left hand path is broken, I guess. And bandage on the head throughout the whole thing. Physical signs of damage. And we learned from Dan Stevens when she's put in the dungeon thing that the purpose is that he says, do you know the cuckoo bird, the kookaburra, the cuckoo bird? The cuckoo bird is interesting. It is an aberration. He does his Dr. Strangelove thing. It's an aberration in nature because the cuckoo is a parasitical host. It will lay its eggs in the nest of another bird, and they will raise the bird for the cuckoo. Which I didn't know that about the cuckoo. So what that means is that the operative, hypnotized, engineered cuckoo demon woman in the white coat is the cuckoo mother who's been programmed by Dan Stevens. So she will attack anything she sees as a threat to her youngling bird. And that whenever she attacks a woman, she does this thing where she reaches down and then has fucking, I don't know, glue goop on her hand, and you're like, this looks like a lot of different things that I don't want to say, but she's reaching towards the person who's being hypnotized because the cuckoo demon programmed woman has the ability to make this high frequency bird sound to hypnotize a threat. And then when they're hypnotized, they dissociate, and in that state, then they can be, smoked or taken over or whatever. But we learned that the object of this whole experiment is not the main character that we see. It's actually the little sister. So the little sister is in the MK Ultra facility with the what's the Jonathan Depp movie? What's it called? Transcendent. What's it called? The one where he's playing Elon Musk. What's that movie called? The one directed by Wally Pfister, the cinematographer. It's got Rebecca Hall. It's a transhumanist movie. I covered it with DPH. Somebody tell me what that's called. Jonathan Depp. He plays a tech guy who merges his consciousness with the AI. He's wearing that thing on his head, the brain helmet, right? The Ewan Cameron brain helmet or whatever. She's doing a sleep study, and what they're really doing is they are waiting to call in what's it called? Transcendence. Thank you. That's what it's called? Oh my gosh. There's so many words, so many names. Yes, transcendence. Thank you so much, Tommy Lee Jones. So they call in the CUCKOO woman, and she's going to come into the room and confront and see her actual CUCKOO youngling child for the first time, and they're doing an experiment to see what happens. But Mr. Copman is there and he meets up with MK Naomi, and Mr. Copman, now who was the good guy and saved her twice, now wants to take out the youngling. So MK Naomi can't let that happen, and Dan Stevens wants to take out MK Naomi. So we have a kind of weird German-Mexican standoff here, and the point of, now we see that the point of the not letting the girl wear headphones and music is because she needs to be able to hear the bird sounds of her actual mother. So that means that this is the real mother, and she used the Asian mother that's at the resort as a host to raise her child, but the child took on the physical appearance attributes of her surrogate mother. And that means that the father is, who's the father? I guess Martin Sakis is still the father. Is he? No, or is the father Dan Stevens? I don't know. The father, I guess, is the guru Dan Stevens, because he's doing like a Hugo Drax here. These are all of my children. These are all his children, man. Everywhere you look, these are his children. He feels good with his people. He loses himself with his people. He loses himself, man. You can't go out into space, man. Oh, he's really out there, man. He's really out there. No, he's got plans for you, man. Look at me, wrong. These are all his children. Yeah, so Dan Stevens is forming a new, what can we call this? Raster mace, German, full of programmed MK Ultra operative killer cuckoo bird woman drones or something. And this will be his new thing. Also, it's like they never address who's funding all this stuff. I mean, he's obviously, some sort of evil. He's the evil genius, but it's like, who's funding all this? It's obviously the regular people that are always funding it, right? Because there's all this, cool aesthetic and, properties and stuff. And it's all a cutout, right? The facility, the fake hospital, the resort, the bungalows, which are just for a most dangerous game, people to hunt. And so MK Naomi ends up saving the little sister, and the little sister then actually saves her because she has the fire starter ability to make the high frequency sound and with as well, because she's the chosen one. And so she uses it for good to get out of there, and then eventually both the copster and Dan Stevens guru are smoked, and they get away and they walk into the Bavarian sunrise. And it's also, just like the last movie, it's morning after the struggle. So it's the dark night of the soul and the body and the mind. And the programming, they've made their way through the labyrinth of the Esalen Institute Health Center and out into the sunrise. And they meet up with who do they meet up? They meet up with the hipster woman. The three of them go off to Paris. So, little girl's got a new family. The family sucked, dude. You just know that, Martin Sakis and the family, that they were aware of all this stuff happening and they were part of the experiment. Why else would they be in this place and put her through all of this? Yeah, that's right, Jason. Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. Into the Golden Dawn, into the new Gnostic, Neo-Edenic, Crowleyan, Thelema Golden Dawn in the German Alps, into the Tool Society Golden Dawn or whatever. I don't know. I mean, there's so much thrown into this that all of the elements are thrown in. It's just that the MK often themes override this. MK often was the sub project, and when MK Ultra changed names, right? MK Naomi, MK often. I think MK often was the name used for the MK Ultra experiments that involved Sybil Leak and the occult. Those were the occult. That was the SRA satanic things. I think that's what that one was. You'll have to go back to the Real Manchurian Candidate, and I like Marshall Thomas in his New Phoenix Program book, which also explains that pretty clearly. It's pretty easy to understand the way he puts it. Yeah, it's a trip. It's absolutely a trip. Yeah, Kit. So both of these movies I thought were worth covering because they are neo, it's this neo horror movie, and it's actually even further on from the ones that we've covered in the last few months. We have a bunch of these A24 movies. We had the Pink Slime movie, which I covered I think that's in Members. We talked about, of course, Hereditary. We talked about The Witch, which are kind of that's like sort of, to me, the genesis of this neo-horror film era, which I thought was going to kind of conclude. And these really are like almost an offshoot of those, because the thing to recognize with these is that they're taking the old tropes, archetypes, storylines, and now things are just coming to the forefront. It's just out there for you to see when you watch it. I mean, Get Out is also like that. It's like, you don't have to read into the film to see that they're doing mind control and transhumanism. They're literally taking the consciousness and putting it into a new host. Same with Westworld. Westworld is done in a different way, but Ex Machina, all of these things, all of these films are doing this, whether it's horror or thriller or techno thriller. And in a way, I think, I like that because I don't like what they're doing, but I like that the films are like that because it's no longer like predictive programming and hidden messages and subtle. It's just there. It's just right there. This is just what's happening. And the counter argument, of course, is that, oh, well, they're movies and they're just, picking up on, things that are popular and people are discussing now. But I don't think that that's valid. It probably is valid for many films are in one sense in the filmmaking process and the financing, but I think that this is more than that. This is not like filmmakers like sitting in chats and getting ideas, which they probably are, but it's also, it's not a response to the zeitgeist. It's creating the new zeitgeist. It's that Jerry Bruckheimer thing, right? No, you're confused. You think that we get our ideas from them. We determine what they will like. We determine what they will think is popular. I like pictures. I like pictures. I like movies. I like going to the cinema. I like sitting in the seats, ordering my popcorn, watching The Terminator, laughing, crying with all of the other people watching the film. That's what I like. And Tom Cruise is great. Jerry Bruckheimer. Go back and watch that interview. Jerry Bruckheimer, Don Simpson, and Charlie Rose. It really is a great interview where they talk about high concept. High concept, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to get away from the auteur movement of the 70s and do something totally different. And that's true because that still continues to be the guiding principle in Hollywood, I think, even now. Shouts out to Block Party right there. Yo, shouts out to my homeboy Block Party. He says, they're doing the technocracy. They're doing the technocracy, ladies and gentlemen. They're doing it. They're doing it right in your face. I remember when I was a kid, they would make movies about Kurt Russell, right, in computers. They'd make movies about a boy and his dog. Unfortunately, that one was also highly, what they call it. Somebody told me this word. I don't remember the word. They said post-apocalyptic. That's quite a word. Puerto Rico. I think the impressions are like getting softer and more chill because that reflects that he's not doing the hello. He's not doing that anymore. It's much more soft and chill. That's right. We've got a new VP, Milan Usk. He's a new VP. I know I ran with this other guy, but I haven't seen him since we got McDonald's on the plane. Did you see the picture of the McDonald's on the plane? Even RFK was enjoying a Big Mac meal #1 large. What happened to the supersize? I'll tell you what's supersized. Barron is supersized. That's not great. That wasn't a great riff. I'm sorry. Joe Poseidon. I had a guest, Joe Poseidon. I like that meme of Joe Poseidon controls the storms. That one was pretty good. I don't care. As long as it's funny. I'm not making political statements. I just think it's as long as it's funny. You know, you got this guy Robert De Niro out there. Listen to Nick Mullins Trump. That's the best one. And his Joe Poseidon. RFK was sitting there like, if he'll, yep. Yeah, it's funny because RFK, on the one hand, was like, no, we're going to get rid of all this. And on the other hand, he was like, I love a QPC. Love a quarter pounder with cheese. What's this? Caramel McCafe. That's good. I love a caramel frappe. It's made with atrazine or whatever. That's not how he talks. He talks like this. It's made with, He talks kind of like me, but like in, like, how old is he? He's like in 20 or 30 years. It's just my voice, but in 20 years. Yep. Missed the all-American meal. Yeah, I mean, look, say what you will about McD's, but look, man, I the other day I had a triple cheese meal. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's nothing like it, dude. There's nothing like a triple cheese meal, right? It's not even on the menu. You got to ask for it special. But when you drive up and they know your voice through the intercom, they'll give you a triple cheese. And the milkshake machine works if you're special. Yeah, no, anyway, no, it would be great to eat filet mignon every night. It would be. But listen, we're on a McD's societal budget right now. So, anyway, you guys, listen, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for night crawling with me here. Oh, it's after midnight. Hold on. Let me see. Let me give some shout outs here. Some shouts out to all the special beings. Hey, listen, shouts out to, let's see. Yo, shouts out to, I'm going to say JC out there on the PayPal. I don't want to, like, dox anybody, if, so your name's on here, but I'm not going to say your name just in case. Shouts out to JC right there. I'll say I'll say just JC. Send me $10 on PayPal. Hey, it says, forgot about your PayPal. Love the stream. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your kind donation there. Shouts out to our homeboy Ethan right there, who drops $15 on Cash App for the Kang. You are the Kang, sir. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you to our very good friend and expert mod, Jason, who dropped $5 on PayPal. Really appreciate you, Jason. Thank you so much. You helped me with the operation here. You helped me to fund the operation. Yo, thanks for the stream, BLA. Thank you, Mojo. Really appreciate it. Thanks to all the people in the chat and anybody watching later. Let me look at these. Let me look at the super chats. Yep. Thank you to Port Film Co-op, who dropped, let's see, Australian $2. He said, yeah, it was a stunning and brave night lady. That's right. Thank you so much. Shouts out to, let's see. Oh, awesome. We got a new membership here. Thank you to Dianaire. Thank you to Dianaire for that new membership. Thank you. Welcome to CUCKOO Book Enjoyer. Appreciate that. Shouts out to Jacob there for that $10. Really appreciate you. Thank you. Let me give some likes here. Yo, shouts out to Mark Turner for gifting those 5 Bazed Analyzer memberships. That means so much. That's really helpful. Thank you. If you want to get a membership, you can get one anytime on the channel. Just click on that little thing. There's 3 levels, and you can get access to all those special beings, members-only analyses. I just did one the other day. I'm trying to do at least one of those a week, possibly up those to 2. Again, I will be doing a literary stream later this week in a couple days. J.G. Ballard. We've done Crash, not the Oscar movie Crash about, all that stuff. The book, short story, Crash, that had a film version with James Spader, the one about the people, the perverts in the cars. It's a good story. Very, very postmodern, as William F. Buckley would say. And we also did, we did one other one, the one set in Spain. We've done a few J.G. Ballards. He's a surprisingly, he's a great, right? Like J.G. Ballard, Graham Greene. We've done Graham Greene. We've done all these people. So if you have a suggestion for a literary stream, I would really appreciate that. I'm also going to do Neuromancer. I've got to do a Billy Bob Thornton stream coming up. That'll be a film stream. He's got a new show coming out, so I'll see. I'll see how that is, and maybe I'll throw that in. Oh, I rewatched Bad Santa last night. Oh my gosh, dude! Have y'all seen Bad Santa? I saw it in 2005 in my apartment in New York. My buddy popped it in and was like, "You got to watch this," and I was like, "I don't know." It's so funny, dude. It's so good. It's got heart too. It's very good. It's a funny film. Billy Bob Thornton. Oh, he's only the smartest man in the world. I would listen to him, right? But yeah, that's going to be that's a sponsor stream from a little while back. I need to also do World on a Wire. That was sponsored a while ago. Crystalline sponsored a Vincent Price film stream a long time ago that I haven't forgotten about. I got to do Mothman. There's a bunch of things I got to do. If you want me to do a literary stream, give me some ideas. You can sponsor a stream. If someone sponsors it, I'm gonna try to do Thomas Pynchon, Gravity's Rainbow. That's a big project though to do. I got to get back to Shakespeare, and hope everybody out there is working hard, not hardly working hard. I hope everyone has a great week. We got Thanksgiving coming up, and I thank you all, especially if you are not in the. If you're outside the good old USA, hey, I give thanks for you too. I really appreciate you. Everybody watching, everybody listening, everybody stopping by. Give me some rewatches. Help me get these numbers up. Hit the like button, leave a comment, write me an email. Email is on the main page in the About. Check out my community page, my community tab. Follow all my friends. Church of the Eternal Logos, Jamie Henshaw, Jay Dyer. Shouts out to Tristan out there. Shouts out to Hesher and Boiler Room Crew, Maddie, Real Cooter Brown, Technor Graphics, Jethro, everybody out there, all the mods, everybody in the chat. I got to thank everybody because I love you. And I'm sorry again, this one took a minute for me to get to at the start because I had some important phone calls from loved ones and people that I care about. And as I always have said on here, right, I got to follow my own thing. When you get a call, especially a phone call from someone in your life, don't put it off, right? It's important. Also, be the one to call them. But it's important because I love my friends and my family, and I appreciate, you got to appreciate when people reach out to you and think about you. I mean, especially in the world now. That's not to be too melodramatic about it, but, I think that it's important to always, reach out or just hit accept. Right. Okay, y'all. I love you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Everybody have a good night. I think I got all the super chats. Let's play us out with Sting and cut off his new album. You want to take it away here? What's that mean to play us out? To play us out. All right, go. Here we go. Thanks, y'all. Was it worth it? Yeah, it's worth it. If you're strong enough. Peace, y'all.